Already, 10% of the world's coral reefs have been destroyed, and scientists estimate that within the next 50 years, all of the world's coral reefs will be gone. For decades, people have used harmful fertilizers, which eventually end up in oceans, pollute, and have used poor tourism practices, which all hugely impact coral reefs. Although coral reefs look bright, youthful, and energetic, they have been around for millions of years. Some of the reefs growing today have been doing so for the past 5,000 to 10,000 years. However, they only grow between 0.3 centimeters to 10 centimeters annually. Coral reefs begin to form when coral larvae that is floating in the water attaches to rocks or other hard surfaces. As the corals get larger, the reefs can grow into one of the three different reef structures, which are the fringing, barrier, or atoll reefs. However, the fringing is the most common type of coral reef and are commonly found off of islands in the Caribbean, as well as off the coast of Mexico. Also, fringing reefs form in shallow waters, which is why they are especially vulnerable to human activity. The second type of coral reef is called a barrier reef, which is commonly found off of the coast of Australia or near the Indies. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef in the world and is made up of over 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands, stretching for over 2,600 kilometers off of the northeast coast of Australia. The third type of coral reef is called an atoll reef, which can be found in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Parts of an atoll reef may potentially emerge as one or even multiple islands. Coral reefs are also home to thousands of plants and animals. About 25% of all marine life lives in coral reefs, when less than 0.1% of the ocean contains them. As previously mentioned, the coral reef's biggest enemy are humans because they use harmful fertilizers that end up in oceans, pollute, and use poor tourism practices. It is known that the Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef in the world. However, 80% of the nearby land is used for farming. When farmers fertilize their crops, they fail to realize where their fertilizer goes to when it rains. Unfortunately, these fertilizers go right into the ocean, and the chemicals in the fertilizers are very harmful to coral reefs. Most of the fertilizers contain the chemicals phosphorus and nitrates. When these chemicals come into contact with coral reefs, they cause them to be incapable of obtaining necessary energy from the light due to the pollution of the water. Over time, this can alter the species of coral, changing it from phototrophic, which is an organism that gets their energy from light, to heterotrophic, which is an organism that gets their energy from organic carbon. This causes a lot of damage to coral reefs because they aren't getting the right amount or even the right kind of nutrients to stay healthy. As long as farmers live near the Great Barrier Reefs, as well as other reefs, more will continue to get damaged and killed. Because the population is rising in coastal areas, more waste is ending up in the ocean. Approximately 80% of the ocean's pollution originates from land. Sewage discharge and runoff cause pathogens, which are bacteria that cause diseases, to come into the coral reef's environment. Scientists even found traces of pathogens from white pox disease in diseased coral from sewage and pollution. Also, marine debris from ships such as fishing nets, plastics, glass, metal, and even tires end up in the ocean. Debris like the fishing nets are still able to capture fish that live in the reefs and even entangle parts of the reef, which can break and damage it. Fish that live in the reefs may also get tangled in the plastic or may eat it as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the time fish will die when they eat or get tangled in plastic because they are unable to digest it. When fish that live in coral reefs die, the reefs lose their protection from other animals that may be harmful to them. However, when the fish are alive and well, they are able to protect the reefs they live in by eating any of its predators. But because fish are dying from pollution, they aren't able to do this. The third and final cause of the disappearance of coral reefs is from poor tourism practices. For example, a lot of the time when people go on vacation to an island, they'll rent a house with a small beachfront. So one day, the people who have rented the house decide to go snorkeling in the ocean. But little do they know, just yards away from the shore, there's a small coral reef. All of a sudden, when they stumble upon this coral reef, they are fascinated. But instead of just looking, they decide to take a piece of coral home as a souvenir. Although they may think taking a small piece that is shorter than 1 foot long is harmless, it's actually anything but harmless. For an 8-inch piece of coral, it can take up to 67 years for it to completely grow back. Because the population is increasing, more and more tourists are coming to islands with coral reefs, which means the reefs are disappearing faster, since the reefs can't grow fast enough to replace stolen, damaged, or missing reefs. Another poor tourism practice that is damaging reefs are boats such as kayaks, canoes, motorboats, yachts, and so on. For example, let's just say the same people who have rented the house go kayaking. They forget to be careful near the reefs and accidentally hit the reefs with one of their paddles. A careless mistake like this can be devastating to a reef, especially a small one, and can cause serious damage. This can leave fish, as well as other small animals, homeless, vulnerable, and defenseless. Recently, efforts have been made to help save the reefs. For example, the Great Barrier Reef now has reef guardians run by the government to make sure the coral reefs aren't harmed or damaged in any way. Also, there are organizations and charities to raise money to restore any damaged coral reefs and protect ones that are vulnerable. Additionally, in June of 2002, the USS Spiegel Grove was purposely sunk in the waters of Key Largo to serve as an artificial reef. Structures like ships and lighthouses are able to provide for fish and other animals, as well as protect them like a real reef would. Even though humans may not realize it, coral reefs benefit them as well. Reefs actually protect shorelines from big waves by absorbing their energy. This prevents flooding in coastal areas as well as waves from being too dangerous to swim in. Another reason coral reefs are beneficial to humans are because they provide food, like fish and shellfish, to the people living on the coast. Also, fishing near coral reefs provides jobs to hundreds and thousands of people all over the world.